Welcome to the introduction to the engagement model video. My name is Cheryl Gorn and I am the local engagement model lead. Here is the overview of what we will be covering in this short video. So what is the engagement model? The engagement model is a statutory requirement for those children who are working in Key Stages 1 and 2 and working well below the national curriculum assessments. And the information will be collected at the end of Year 2 and at the end of Year 6. The engagement model applies to maintain schools, maintain special schools, academies, which include free schools, pupil referral units, hospital schools, and Ministry of Defence schools. It is not mandatory for non-maintained or independent schools. The engagement model is a form of assessment which supports those non-linear and lateral progress. It combines both formative and summative assessments, and it can be used across all key stages and to support engagement for those children working below pre-key stage standards. Diane Rochford was asked to lead a review of the assessment arrangements for children working below the standards of the national curriculum at Key Stages 1 and 2. The P scales were designed to sit below the level descriptors used to assess the old national curriculum. Diane and her working party helped her to consider whether the P scales remained fit for purpose and whether they were the best way of assessing pupils with SEND. They concluded that given the range of problems and challenges associated with P levels, it would be better to stop using them and develop a new approach to assessment, one that was more appropriate for the varying needs of pupils working below the standard of the national curriculum tests, one that was better aligned with the new national curriculum, and one that allowed for more fluid progression onto wider forms of statutory national assessment. Diane recommended introducing the 7 aspects of engagement that were derived from the 7 indicators of engagement from Professor Barry Carpenter's Complex Needs project, which he started in 2010. The 7 aspects were responsiveness, curiosity, discovery, anticipation, persistence, initiation, and investigation. The aim was to enable schools to better assess pupils with the most complex needs. It was to enable every kind of progress being made by pupils to be identified and allow more of a flexible and personalised assessment approach. The pilot addressed the key issue with the P scales, that they focus on linear progress, which is not always how children with the most complex needs progress. The pilot group ran in 2019 in 55 schools across the UK, and the feedback from the test and learn was used to complete the engagement model guidance that we have today. The group decided to make some changes to the original format of the 7 indicators of learning to 5 areas. This was due to help the reduction in workload and the suitability as an assessment tool. And so the 7 aspects were whittled down to 5. If we remember, the original 7 were responsiveness, curiosity, discovery, anticipation, persistence, initiation, and investigation. And in today's engagement model, the 5 areas are now initiation, persistence, exploration, anticipation, and realisation. To help me remember the 5 areas of engagement, I remember I pair. So that initiation is I, persistence is P, exploration is E, anticipation A, and realisation is R. The engagement model allows us to reflect on the fact that do we really know what engagement is? Engagement is a readiness to learn. By using the 5 areas on the engagement model, it allows us as practitioners to observe children and young people and really understand what their readiness to learn looks like and how this can be achieved in our lessons to ensure that they are engaged in their learning. Initiation. The early development of initiation is what we're looking for as practitioners. How much the child interacts and investigates a stimulus, and what different ways do they use. We want to look at how the pupil act spontaneously and also independently during familiar activities. When a young person is established in initiation, we're looking at how they understand how to create an impact on their environment. And one of the main reasons why the initiation is so important is that it shows how well the pupil is developing their independent skills. And we all know that this is the foundation block for more advanced learning. Persistence shows whether the pupil can sustain their attention in a stimulus or an activity for long enough that they can then actively try to find out more and interact with it. Persistence becomes more established when the pupil shows a determined effort to interact with a stimulus or activity. They will do this by showing those intentional changes, such as changes in their gaze, their posture, and hand movement. Persistence is important so that the pupil remains on the activity long enough to develop and reinforce their learning. It also helps the pupil apply their skills or knowledge so that they can achieve their desired outcome. Exploration shows whether a pupil can build on their initial reaction to a new stimulus or activity. Do they display more than an involuntary or startled reaction to the activity? Is the pupil interested or curious about the stimulus or activity, and do they notice it and reach out for it? As exploration becomes more established, the pupil will be still responsive to the same stimulus or activity when it is presented in different contexts or environments. So, for example, a different day, a different time, a different place, or with different people. Exploration is important in identifying which stimulus or activity interests that pupil to motivate them to pay attention and investigate them further so that they can develop new knowledge and skills. Anticipation shows how much a child predicts, expects, or associates with a stimulus or activity, with an event. They may anticipate that a familiar activity is about to start or finish by interpreting those cues or prompts, such as auditory, what they hear, tactile, what they feel, and visual, what they see. Anticipation becomes more established when a pupil shows awareness that a familiar activity is about to start or finish, even when those cues and prompts are reduced. Anticipation is more important in measuring the pupil's understanding of cause and effect. For example, if they do this, then something will happen. This prepares the brain for learning and helps with the pupil's memory and sequencing. Realization shows that the pupil interacts with a new stimulus or activity, or even discovers a new aspect of their familiar stimulus or activity. They will display behaviours that show that they want more control of the stimulus or activity, and for example, they might want to stop it, or by trying to make it change in some way. Pupils will often show what familiar adults consider to be a surprise element, or excitement, delight, amazement, or even sometimes fear. Realization becomes more established when the pupil uses the newly developed skills or knowledge in new ways and in different contexts or environments. This is important as it can keep the pupil excited in their learning and prevents an activity from becoming a routine. The 5 areas of engagement model feed into the 4 areas of need. It is important to understand that just because a young person may have an EHCP, it doesn't automatically mean that they are working at engagement model. One way to work with outcomes or targets for a young person is to make sure that the language of the engagement model is used when writing the targets or outcomes. The engagement model allows us to reflect and understand what learning looks like for our young people, and to allow us to understand what the barriers to their learning actually are. By using observations, we can begin to build up a picture of how our learners engage, how we plan for this engagement, and how we can sustain engagement. It is important to understand that observations of disengagement are just as important as engagement. Observations can then be used to inform the next steps of teaching and curriculum development. Here is a simple overview of the engagement model and the descriptions of the 5 areas. So we have realisation, that light bulb moment; anticipation, how they predict; the persistent, that continued effort; initiation, that spontaneity; and exploration, that curiousness. The Department for Education do not want any data relating to achievement and progress, as this is personal to each child. They also are just collecting the data to evidence how many pupils are engaged in non-subject specific study and where they are being educated. Parents, governors and local authorities may want evidence against progress in different formats, but I must stress that progress and assessment should be shared with parents in a very easy to read format. Ofsted do understand how the engagement model aligns with the quality of education and have been involved in the development of the engagement model guidance. Here are the details for your local, regional and national leaders for the engagement model. If you would like full training on the engagement model, please get in touch with either your local or regional leader. And if you don't know who they are, then please get in touch with Alison Lay as the national leader.